Jimi Hendrix paid $370 for a guitar in 1964. 50 years later, that same guitar sold at auction for $750,000. Another Hendrix guitar, the white Stratocaster he used at Woodstock, sold for $2 million. A third guitar, the one he set on fire at the Astoria Theatre in London, sold for $570,000. Add them all up. Every Hendrix guitar that's been sold at auction. Every Stratocaster, every Gibson, every acoustic. The total? Over $8 million. For guitars that Jimi bought for a few $100s each. Some he smashed. Some he burned. Some he gave away. Today, they're worth millions. This is the story of Jimi Hendrix's guitar collection. The instruments that changed rock music forever, and the fortunes they've made for collectors, museums, and auction houses. Let's start with the most famous one, the Woodstock Stratocaster. August 18, 1969. Woodstock Festival. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Most of the crowd had left. The festival was supposed to end Sunday night, but delays pushed everything back. Only 80,000 people remained from the original 500,000. Jimi Hendrix took the stage with Gypsy Sun and Rainbows. 2-hour set, the longest performance of his career. And then, during the encore, he played the Star-Spangled Banner. The guitar, a 1968 white Fender Stratocaster. Olympic white finish. Maple neck. Rosewood fretboard. Jimi had nicknamed it Isabella. The performance became the defining moment of Woodstock. Maybe the defining moment of rock guitar in the 1960s, Jimi's guitar screaming the national anthem. Distorted. Feedback. Dive bombs mimicking bombs in Vietnam. Pure sonic warfare. After Jimi died in 1970, the Woodstock Stratocaster ended up with Mitch Mitchell, the drummer from the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Mitch kept it for decades. A piece of history sitting in his house. In 1998, the guitar went to auction. Paul Allen, Microsoft co-founder, billionaire, guitar collector, bought it for $2 million. $2 million for a stock Fender Stratocaster that probably cost Jimi $300 to $400 when he bought it new. But it wasn't just a guitar anymore. It was the Woodstock guitar, the Star-Spangled Banner guitar, an artifact of American cultural history. Paul Allen didn't buy it to keep in his mansion. He bought it for the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, Jimi's hometown. Today, you can go to MO Pop in Seattle and see the Woodstock Stratocaster in person, the guitar that changed everything. Quincy Jones said that Paul Allen could play guitar just like Jimi. The Woodstock Strat had inspired Allen to pick up guitar as a kid. So when it came up for auction, he made sure it would be available for everyone to see. To inspire the next generation. That's worth $2 million. But the Woodstock Strat wasn't Jimi's favorite guitar. That honor belonged to Black Beauty, a 1968 Fender Stratocaster. Black finish. Maple neck. The guitar Jimi used more than any other during his final years. He used it on stage and in the studio from 1968 until his death in September 1970. Black Beauty was Jimi's main axe, the one that rarely left his side. Unlike the Woodstock Strat, which was used for one iconic performance, Black Beauty was used for hundreds of shows. Recording sessions at Electric Lady Studios, jams at clubs, private rehearsals. This was the guitar that Jimi actually played the most. After Jimi's death, Black Beauty disappeared for years, passed through various hands. Collectors, musicians, people who kept it quiet because they knew what they had. In 2006, Black Beauty finally surfaced at a Christie's auction. It sold for $325,000. Wait, only $325,000? Less than the Woodstock Strat? Yes, because provenance matters. Documentation matters. The Woodstock Strat had clear provenance. Used at Woodstock, photographed, filmed, documented. Everyone could verify it. Black Beauty had murkier provenance. Harder to prove definitively that it was the guitar. Fewer photographs. Less documentation. Still, $325,000 for a stock Fender Stratocaster is insane. That's almost 1,000 times what Jimi paid for it. Today, Black Beauty's whereabouts are unknown. Some collector owns it, keeps it private, maybe plays it occasionally, maybe locks it in a vault. The guitar that Jimi Hendrix loved most is lost to history again. Now let's talk about the guitar Jimi destroyed most famously, the Monterey Stratocaster. June 18, 1967. Monterey International Pop Festival, California. The Who went on before Jimi. Pete Townsend smashed his guitar and shoved the neck into his amp classic Who Destruction. Jimi was pissed. He wanted to outdo Townsend, make a bigger statement. So he asked for lighter fluid. At the end of his set, Jimi poured lighter fluid over his guitar and set it on fire. The image of Jimi kneeling in front of a burning Stratocaster became one of the most iconic rock photos ever taken. But here's the secret. Jimi didn't burn his favorite guitar. He loved the black and white Stratocaster he'd been playing all set. Didn't want to destroy it. So seconds before the finale, he switched guitars. Swapped the good one for a repaired guitar that was already damaged. He burned the damaged one. Kept the black and white Strat safe. But what happened to the guitar he actually set on fire? The charred Monterey Strat. Jimi's press officer, Tony Garland, grabbed it after the show. Kept it in his family for over 40 years. In 2008, Garland's nephew discovered the guitar intact. Still charred. Still smelling faintly of lighter fluid. The guitar went to auction at London's Fame Bureau. Estimate, £120,000, about $200,000. Actual sale price, £280,000, about $570,000. Almost triple the estimate. Why? Because the Monterey performance was legendary. The image of that burning guitar defined Jimi's showmanship. His willingness to destroy equipment for art. People wanted to own that moment. But Jimi didn't just play Stratocasters. He also used other guitars. Gibsons. Mustangs. Acoustics. Take the 1966 red Fender Mustang. Jimi used it during the recording of Axis, Bold as Love, and Electric Ladyland at Olympic Studios in London. The Mustang has a shorter scale length than a Stratocaster. Different sound. Jimi liked using different guitars for different textures in the studio. This red Mustang was part of Fender's L series, among the last guitars made before CBS bought Fender. Vintage collectors love pre-CBS Fenders. In 2007, the red Mustang sold at a Julien's charity auction for $490,000. $500,000. For a guitar that cost maybe $150 new. The proceeds went to musicians affected by Hurricane Katrina. So at least the money did some good. Then there's the guitar Jimi owned the longest. A 1963 white Fender Stratocaster with a mint green pickguard. Jimi bought this guitar in 1965 when he was still Jimi James, playing backup for other artists. He kept it at Juggy Sound Studios in New York. The studio engineer, Skip Juried, held on to it for Jimi. Jimi would use it whenever he came to Juggy's. Smaller studio. More laid back. Less high-tech than the big studios. In 1970, when Jimi came back to record the Band of Gypsies album, he gifted the guitar to Skip as thanks for keeping it safe for 5 years. Skip kept it until he died in the 1980s. Then it passed to a family member. Eventually ended up with a guitar dealer named Jesse Amoroso. Amoroso was going through a collection of guitars when he found it. A 1963 Strat with a mint green pickguard. Serial number L14985. He did research. Discovered it was one of Jimi's earliest Stratocasters. Maybe the earliest one still intact. Most of Jimi's early guitars? Smashed or lost. No one knows where the hell they went, Amoroso said. He smashed stuff. In 2007, the 1963 white Strat sold at auction for £60,000, about $120,000. Not as much as the later guitars, but still significant, because it represented Jimi's early years. Before fame. Before the experience. When he was just a sideman trying to make it. Jimi also gave guitars to people he cared about. In 1968, Jimi visited Seattle. Went to see his family. His brother Leon was trying to start a band. Leon needed a guitar. Couldn't afford one. Jimi pulled out a 1964 Fender Stratocaster from his collection. Sunburst finish. Beautiful instrument. Here, Jimi said. This will help you get started. Leon took the guitar. Treasured it. This wasn't just any Stratocaster. This was his brother's guitar. The brother who was becoming the most famous guitarist in the world. Leon played it for a while. But mostly, he kept it safe. Preserved it. Knew it was special. For almost 50 years, Leon Hendrix kept that 1964 Stratocaster. Through Jimi's death in 1970. Through decades of Hendrix legend growing. Through the guitar becoming more and more valuable. But in 2015, Leon faced health issues. Medical bills. Financial pressure that he made the difficult decision to sell the guitar. The auction house listing read, 1964 Fender Stratocaster owned and played by Jimi Hendrix, given to his brother Leon Hendrix in 1968 in Seattle. The guitar came with everything. The original case Jimi toured with, the case he carried during the early hit, Hey Joe, Purple Haze, The Wind Cries Mary. Leon provided documentation. Photographs of Jimi with the guitar. Letters. Provenance. The estimate. $750,000. Think about the math. Jimi walked into a music store in 1964 and paid $370 for a Fender Stratocaster. Standard price. Nothing special about the transaction. 11 years later, if you wanted to buy that same guitar, you'd pay $750,000, not because the guitar was different, not because it was modified or customized, because Jimi Hendrix owned it, played it, gave it to his brother with love. That's the Jimi Premium. The guitar itself, just a vintage 1964 Strat, might be worth $10,000 to $15,000 to a vintage guitar collector. But because Jimi's hands touched it, because Jimi's fingers pressed those frets and bent those strings, because this guitar was part of Jimi's life, even briefly, $750,000. Leon sold the guitar. The money helped with his medical expenses, helped him survive. The guitar went to a private collector, someone who had $750,000 to spend on a piece of Jimi Hendrix history. That collector now owns the guitar Jimi gave his brother. The gift that became a fortune. Not all of Jimi's guitars were electric. In the mid-1960s, a luthier named William C. Stahl built a custom acoustic guitar specifically for Jimi. Jimi used it constantly at his London flat. The problem? He couldn't play electric there. Neighbors complained about the noise, the volume, the feedback. So the acoustic became his writing guitar, his creative tool. He'd sit in his room, 23 Brook Street, London, and work out riffs, arrangements, ideas on the Stahl acoustic. This is where All Along the Watchtower came together. Jimi's arrangement, the definitive version that everyone knows, the one that even Bob Dylan admitted was better than his original, came from Jimi sitting with that Stahl acoustic, reworking Dylan's folk song into a rock masterpiece. The guitar was photographed at Jimi's flat multiple times. Documented. Verified. Clear provenance. Noel Redding, bassist for The Experience, even wrote about it in his personal ledger. Mentioned that Jimi once took the guitar to the cinema with Eric Clapton and a female friend. An odd detail, but it proves the guitar existed, was used, was part of Jimi's daily life. After Jimi's death, the Stahl acoustic passed through various owners. Collectors. Musicians. People who understood what they had. In 2020, it came up for auction again. Estimate. $200,000, $500,000. Think about that. A custom acoustic guitar. No famous performances. No iconic moments. Just a tool Jimi used for writing. But it was the tool that created All Along the Watchtower. The tool that helped Jimi work out the arrangements for some of his greatest songs. That's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there's the Epiphone FT79 acoustic. The guitar Jimi owned longer than any other documented instrument. He bought it for about $25 in August 1967 during the Experience's first U.S. tour. Brought it back to England. Kept it in his Upper Berkeley Street flat in London. Used it constantly. Couldn't play electric because of noise complaints, so the Epiphone became his go-to instrument. He was filmed playing it at least once, performing Elvis's Hound Dog at an after-party. The guitar stayed with Jimi through his move to 23 Brook Street. Through the Electric Ladyland sessions. His creative peaked. He owned it for 3 years. Longer than any other guitar that's been documented. In 2016, the Epiphone came up for auction through Bonham's London. You can see it today at the Handel and Hendrix Museum in London. Jimi's old flat, now a museum. But you can't touch it. Can only look at it through glass. Still, for the price of a reasonably sized home in the north of England, it could be yours. Add it all up. All the Hendrix guitars sold at auction over the years. The Woodstock Strat, $2 million. Leon's 1964 Strat, $750,000 to the Monterey Burn Strat, $570,000 to the Red Mustang, $490,000 to Black Beauty, $325,000 to various other Stratocasters, acoustics, and studio guitars. Another $2 to $3 million combined. Total, over $8 million. Probably closer to $10 million if you count private sales that weren't publicized. For guitars that Jimi bought for $200 to $400 each, he didn't treat them precious. Smashed some, burned some, gave some away, left some at studios. To Jimi, they were tools. Means to an end. Ways to create the sounds in his head that if a guitar got in the way of the art, he destroyed it. If a friend needed a guitar, he gave it to them. Jimi wasn't thinking about investment value. Wasn't thinking about auction prices in 50 years. He was thinking about music, about sound, about expression. But the people who came after, they saw dollar signs. Why are Jimi's guitars worth so much? First, absolute scarcity. Jimi died at 27. Career of only 4 years, 1966 to 1970. Most guitarists have decades. Hundreds of guitars. Jimi had 4 years. Maybe 30 to 40 guitars total. Destroyed many. Lost some. Gave some away. The guitars that survived? Maybe 15 to 20 documented instruments. Jimi's guitars are rare because there simply aren't many of them. Second, revolutionary significance. Jimi changed what guitar could be. What rock music could sound like. Before Jimi, guitar was rhythm and lead. Clean tones or mild distortion. After Jimi, guitar was a sonic weapon. Feedback was melody. The instrument could scream, cry, explode. Owning a Jimi guitar means owning a piece of history. Connection to genius. Third, impeccable authentication. The guitars with the highest prices have bulletproof provenance. The Woodstock Strat? Filmed. Photographed. Documented ownership from 1970 to 1998. Worth $2 million. Black Beauty? Murkier provenance. Harder to prove. Worth $325,000. Fourth, the power of story. People don't want just a guitar. They want the mythology. The Monterey Strat is valuable because it's the guitar Jimi set on fire at Monterey in 1967. The Woodstock Strat is valuable because it played the Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock. The story makes it priceless. Fifth, investment value. These guitars appreciate. Fast. Monterey Burn Strat. Bought $160,000 in 1990s. Sold $570,000 in 2008. Fixed supply. Growing demand. These guitars will only get more expensive. Today, Jimi's guitars are scattered across the world. Some are in museums. Pop in Seattle, the Handel and Hendrix Museum in London, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Some are in private collections. Billionaires, celebrities, collectors who paid millions and keep them locked away. Some are lost. Black Beauty, the 1968 maple neck Strat that Jimi used constantly, is somewhere. But where? Nobody knows. And some guitars are still out there, undiscovered. In attics, storage units, closets. Maybe someone's grandfather was a roadie in the 60s. Grabbed a guitar after a show. Forgot about it. Maybe that guitar is a Jimi Hendrix Stratocaster worth $500,000, waiting to be found. The lesson? Jimi Hendrix turned cheap guitars into priceless artifacts, not through careful preservation, not through investment strategy, not through treating them like precious objects, through genius, through innovation, through using them exactly as they were meant to be used, as tools for creating art. Jimi bought guitars to make music. When they worked, great. When they didn't, he smashed them and got new ones that he wasn't thinking about resale value. Wasn't thinking about auction prices in 2025 that he was thinking, how do I get that sound out of my head and into the world? And if destroying a $400 guitar made a better performance, he destroyed it. That's why his guitars are priceless now. Because he never treated them as priceless. He treated them as expendable, as means to an end. The guitars became valuable because Jimi used them fully, pushed them to their limits. Made them scream and cry and explode with sound. A mint condition 1968 Stratocaster that was never played? Worth maybe $20,000-$30,000 at a beat-up, worn-down 1968 Stratocaster that Jimi Hendrix played at Woodstock? Worth $2 million. The wear and tear makes it more valuable. Because it's proof the guitar was used. Proof it created something extraordinary. Here's the final truth. These guitars aren't really worth millions of dollars, that they're priceless. Literally. You can't put a price on cultural significance, on historical importance, on the moment music changed forever. $2 million is what someone happened to pay for the Woodstock Strat. But is that what it's worth? How do you value the guitar that played the Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock? How do you value the moment Jimi Hendrix redefined American patriotism through distortion and feedback? How do you value genius? You can't. So we use money as a substitute, as a way to measure the unmeasurable. But the real value isn't the price tag. It's what these guitars represent: the courage to experiment, the willingness to destroy, the commitment to art over commerce, the revolutionary spirit that changed music forever. That's what collectors are really buying. Not wood and wire and pickups, that they're buying a connection to something greater, to a moment in time when one man with a guitar showed the world what was possible. And you can't put a price on that. Jimi bought a $370 guitar and used it to redefine rock and roll. 50 years later, that guitar sold $4.750. But the music, the revolution, the genius, that's priceless and always will be.